everyone. It is Tony Will. I am back with another amazing episode of Women In, and I can't wait for you to meet my fabulous guest. But before we do that, let me tell you what you're listening to. Women In is a podcast that celebrates women from all walks of life and the people who uplift them. Each episode features incredible voices from my world, sharing stories that spark inspiration, challenge the status quo, and remind us that empowering women empowers everyone. This is a bold, curious, and uncensored space where disruption is welcome, forward thinking is encouraged, and change is the goal. I'm passionate about breaking down barriers, not just for us, but for the next generation, including my own kiddos. Whether our paths cross through the Kalamazoo Wings, Mindfulness Elevated, Tony Will Coaching, or you happen to be part of my family and friend circle, these conversations matter. Let's dive in and celebrate the power of connection, growth, and the women who are shaping our world. My guest today is the fabulous Laura Nelson. Laura is an esteemed entrepreneur, international speaker, author, and leading figure in the dental industry. As the founder of Front Office Rocks, she significantly transformed online dental training by providing extensive resources and training programs specifically designed to enhance the capabilities of dental front office staff. Under Laura's exceptional leadership, Front Office Rocks has become the premier source of practical, real-world training in the dental community, ensuring top-notch patient care and efficient practice management. Laura's commitment extends beyond dental education into creating healthier, more inclusive environments in the professional world. Recognizing the need for sober-friendly options at industry events, she co-founded Sober Life Rocks to advocate for these choices, contributing to a more inclusive and supportive community. Laura's influence and innovation continues to make a significant impact across various sectors. In addition to her work with Sober Life Rocks and Front Office Rocks, Laura is the author of a groundbreaking book on inclusive meeting planning, which serves as a guide for event organizers to design meetings and conferences that attract and welcome diverse attendees. This book, alongside her other endeavors, underscores her dedication to fostering inclusivity and excellence in all professional settings. Hey, Laura.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to be here too. I mean, you and we immediately connected. So let's start there. Tell everyone how we met.
We met in Tampa. Were we in Tampa? Tampa at This Naked Mind. Was it 5 days or something? Intensive training. And immediately the first day, Annie, who runs This Naked Mind, said, "You need to meet the lady on the other side of the room. You two come from the same cut of cloth." And we met the very first day and have been friends ever since.
Yeah, it literally was like, hello. I met your husband. Like, I just immediately felt connected to you. I have so much respect for when people come up to me, because I've been in This Naked Mind for a long time, and I love it when people are like, I've been told to meet you. I'm like, yes, then you're my person, because you're going to say hello. And so we hit it off. And when I'm reading your bio, I knew a little bit about you, but even more. And I'm like, yeah, the word inclusive was in there a lot. And that is so like one of the many things I'm passionate about. So tell me why inclusivity in your worlds, because you're like me, we have a lot of different identities and things we're working on. Tell me why that's so important to you.
And actually, it's funny that you started with that story, because even I remember walking into This Naked Mind, and I had started Sober Life Rocks, but it was more of like I was going to sell swag, right? I was like, so Sober Life Rocks. And it was the first time I was walking into a room where I was like, these people are going to get me, because we're all sober. And I remember walking in, and that morning, 2 or 3 people are like, "We don't identify as sober. I don't use that word. I'm not okay with." And I'm like, I'm even in a room with people that are my people, and I still don't feel like I fit in. And so meeting you, I was like, oh, thank goodness. So that's the thing for me is I'm not one of those people who pays attention to the heart details, the little details, the somebody said something and we really need to right? I pay attention to the room, the energy in the room. And if that person's in the corner who's not connected, not having conversation, or somebody's not being, asked a question in a conversation, I just have this thing where it's just, I want everyone to feel included, right? And I wanted that in the dental space. That's why I started my business, because the front office team members in dental many times are not thought of besides a piece of furniture. We're called the front desk. And then when I got into the sober space, going to conferences and going to events and feeling like I was the only one not drinking, feeling like I was so disconnected, and I go back to my room after they rolled the black bar. And so that's just kind of my passion, is to make sure that everybody feels included, seen, and heard. And that's kind of gone through my life and now into the sober space.
It's so funny you talk about fitting in. Before we hit record, I so Laura and I beyond the work we do and being sober, but we both speak. We both keynote speakers and things like that. And I just got back from keynote speaking yesterday. I did it, and we were sharing. And there's this. I struggle right now with imposter syndrome at times, and that word's been thrown around a lot. But basically, what it's boiling down to in a certain light is just fitting in and wanting to be like wanting my message to land the way it's intended. But not everyone has a growth mindset. Not everyone thinks like you and I do, Laura. And
Mhm.
so I agree. When I walk into those spaces, and especially in the sober, alcohol free, whatever language we want to use, we're still you people like you and I don't fit in.
Uh-huh.
We have to find each
Uh-huh.
other. So how
Uh-huh.
do you and I love having this conversation because you're the first person I've ever talked to about this, like this fitting in thing. Most of the time
Uh-huh.
it doesn't bother me. Does it bother you at times when you know like you just don't fit in?
It's funny. Before I stopped drinking, yeah, I think it bothered me, and I used alcohol to make myself fit in, not worry about it, numb it, whatever. Now that I'm sober, that was a lot of the work that I've had to do over the last 5 years, is just being okay with like not fitting in and not being okay to go back in my room because I don't want to sit around and listen to people drinking, being okay to go like, you're not my people. That's okay. Right. It's fine. I've done a lot of work. I know a lot of it is their story, not mine. And so and that's the thing, is the first step is putting down the bottle. The second step is then you got to start living with yourself, and you have to start going, well, like, if I don't fit in here, who's going to love me? Well, it's got to come from inside. Right. So I think I've grown a lot, and I think I have a lot of growth, because that doesn't mean I don't walk into a room still going, oh man, I don't fit in
Yeah.
or I don't know anyone here. And how do I do this? Right. It's not easy, but it's growth work.
Yeah, I had one of my fellow peers in hockey. It's a female GM, and I love her, and she's a dear friend. But she said to me, and she didn't mean it to be offensive, but she leaned over and she said, "Yeah, we were in a board of governors meeting, and she's like, man, we could be done with this, and I could have a drink in my hand." And she was saying this to me, and I'm like, "Oh yeah," and and she knows I don't drink. I mean, the whole world knows I don't drink. She goes, "But you're better than me because you don't drink." And I'm like, I wanted her to know that I'm like, absolutely not. I'm not better than you. But it
Mhm.
almost feels like, and I don't know if you run into this. I don't think I'm better than anyone. I don't think I'm less than anyone. It's just a
Mhm.
choice because for me, my story was I drank way for my comfortability way too fucking much.
Right.
So do people say that to you at times?
Yeah. And actually, it was an aha when I started Sober Life Rocks with Margie. And part of the growth for me was I used to just put the lime in my drink and hold my drink and act like I was drinking at these events when I got sober, because I just didn't want to deal with listening to people say, well, I don't drink on weekends, or I only drink, at sports events, or you're better than me, and they're justifying their drinking. And I was like, I don't really care what's in your cup. You do you and I do me. But what I realized during this journey I've been on is, by me hiding the fact that I'm not drinking means somebody else in the room doesn't know I'm not drinking, and they're also not drinking. And I feel like I do have those conversations where people are feeling better than, less than, are you in recovery? Are you 12 step? Why do you not drink? Like, whatever. And I didn't deal with it before because it was just a pain. But now it's like I feel like I need to, because I think we should change this whole message about, I don't care what's in your cup. You do you and I'll do me. Right. And I can't stand when people are like, sorry, I'm drinking. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm drinking too. Mine just happens to be with no alcohol.
I know.
you know?
I feel the same freaking way. And
Uh-huh.
it doesn't come up often. And I applaud people when they say it to me because I'm like, okay, that's how going back to your earlier point, that's something within them. And
Uh-huh.
that they're feeling, maybe she's feeling bad about her relationship with alcohol. I don't know, but I'm not
Right.
judging anyone for it at all. And I know you're not either.
Right.
It,
Yeah, I don't judge what's on your plate. I don't judge and I think honestly, so I'm not a coach, even though I've been through this Naked Mind. I did that more so when I'm on stage. I have some research behind me and some certification, but when I do end up coaching here and there. When people who are sober talk about the pressure of like people, trying to get you to drink or saying these things, some of it I think also is just that they're interested. They're wondering how you do it. maybe they're just being nice, right? Like my thing is if someone's like, do you want a glass of wine? And you're like, no, thank you. And they're like, but are you sure the wine's good? Do you want a glass of wine? We can get triggered like, oh, people are pushing that on us. But they would do the same thing with ice cream. Do you want a scoop of ice cream? Are you sure? Because ice cream. So I think by all of us sharing these stories and talking about it, we're showing both sides. People who are drinking to say, you do you. And we also are here if you need help and if you want to talk about it. But also on the side of us, the group that are sober, alcohol free, to realize that it's not necessarily always peer pressure. It's not necessarily people judging. It's literally just they say what they say, and people are awkward. People say dumb stuff sometimes, and they wish they could just take it back, right?
They do.
Yeah.
It's kind of like in a way when someone passes away and they don't know what to say to you, and they
Yeah.
do say things, and they're like, "Fuck, I shouldn't have said that."
Yeah.
And it is.
I went to, you know this, you go to an event. I went to a conference and I was walking in with a friend of mine and we were going to check in at the front desk and the bar was right here, right? So all the people for our conferences are at the bar already. And the one guy walks over and he's like all excited to see us. And he's like, hey, we're all here. We're at the bar. You know, like you guys check in, put your bags away, come meet us at the bar. He's like, can I get you guys a drink, to me and the other person? And then he looks at me and he goes, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean, so first of all, I'm thinking, thank you for remembering, because a lot of people don't remember, and he follows my TikTok and he knows that. But the second thing is I didn't die. I drink. I would love a drink. I would just love a Sprite or a Coke or whatever, seltzer water. But it was so funny. And I went right up to my room and I made a TikTok about it. I was like, okay, so here's the thing. We didn't die when we stopped drinking. We just choose not to put alcohol in our drink, but we still drink.
100%.
So, and it's just, yeah.
It is. It's funny. I'm going to do a small aside because this is how I roll on my podcast. So I'm not on TikTok, but I'm going to combine these two stories. So I was in Orlando. I took my staff. We just got back for summer league meetings for the league, and they wanted to go to Epcot and do drinking around the world. So my assistant planned. We have family T-shirts made. We had ears. We had this whole thing, and I'm totally fine with this because I'm like I can drink non-alcoholic drinks around the world, and I was interested to see how many of the countries, 11 of them at Epcot, had mocktails. By the way, the English too. So, which is fine. It didn't matter, but I could eat around the world, or I could just enjoy time with my crew around the world, and it was funny. So I decided I was going to film because my daughter showed me, because I don't have TikTok. My daughter says, "Mom, people drink around the world and do TikTok."
Do that thing. Mm-hmm.
So I said, "Okay, I'm going to take videos," and I called it Tony Talk, and I'm like. So I'm going to send it to my producer who produces this podcast so he can string it together into something that I'm not going to put on anything. I'll just send it to my crew. But it was a lot of fun. And they had a great time. And then they were like, wow, I really felt like shit afterwards. I'm like, well, yeah, you were drinking in 11 countries in the heat.
Yeah, exactly. And nobody ever regrets not drinking too much the morning after. So you do you, and in the morning I feel great.
Yeah, exactly. So there you have it. I do want to talk to you about TikTok because I know you're very active. Okay, but I'm going to come to that later. Let's talk about the language the language of, or labels and language. Sober, alcohol-free, recovery, 12-step, not 12-step.
Yep.
Okay. There's so much language in our own little sober, alcohol-free community. So
yeah,
where do you land on that? What's your opinions? I want to get
so I respect the history. In fact, I just talked to somebody you and I were talking about. She's writing an article about what would Bill W. think now with recovery, right?
Great article. Yeah.
What's that? Yeah, right. Exactly. Because it's progressed so far. So I respect all of the history and what got us here. If it wasn't for all of, AA and 12-step and all of that, and everybody finds their own journey into alcohol and we all have our own journey out. And I think there's a lot, this is why we like TNMI. There's a lot of research. There's a lot of growth. There's a lot of things we've learned. Right. So for me, the thing that use the words that's real for you. Right? Are you sober? Are you alcohol free? I have no problem with saying the word I'm sober, because to me, that's what scared me the most. Was I thought sober meant no fun. And so now I get to the other side. I'm like, oh, I actually like being sober. This is cool. But I didn't even know there was a term alcohol free. I didn't know mocktails could be negative. When I started saying, let's have a mocktail, and people are like, we don't like the word mocktail. And I'm like, okay, I don't even know.
I know.
Right?
That one, I was like, what? Now that's negative?
Yeah, exactly. So all of it for me, I did a video recently on this. I have absolutely no problem. For me personally, I don't say I'm an alcoholic. I don't say I was. I did have a problem with alcohol. But I don't have a problem saying I'm recovered. And I don't have a problem saying recovery. And I'm not saying everybody has to be sober. It has to, like, you can stop drinking for whatever reason, or you even be sober curious, all that. But for me, the word recovery, when you actually look at it and define it, is you've gotten something back, that you've received something back. And I think for anybody who's assessed their relationship with alcohol, whether you've stopped drinking or not, whether you're sober curious, whatever, when you're actually putting yourself first and deciding to recover something back, right? Control of your alcohol, control of drinking, control to not drink, whatever it is, I'm okay with the word recovery because we've recovered something, right?
Yeah.
But again, it's you do me. Now, the thing is the reason, and we'll talk about, I'm sure, that Margie and I, my business partner and I, want to have this conference is because I do think we are kind of doing a disservice in this newer sober space, or whatever you want to call it. Because I have talked to some people who are like, when somebody gets on a podcast and says, well, I didn't end up, I stopped drinking before I got to rock bottom. I didn't have to go to AA or anything. What that does is it knocks people who've gone to AA down. It makes it seem like they had to hit rock bottom and I'm better than that. And so I do think there's some growth we can have in this newer sober space to be careful of the way we are referring to things and how we are explaining our stories, because we're all here for the same purpose. We're all here just to normalize sober choices. And I do think that we could be a little bit more, we can learn from each other, right? Because some of the things we say, we don't realize that we're doing damage to somebody else who also just wants to share their story and help people see that there's a way out.
Absolutely. Yeah. I spent 15 months in AA back in 2016 and 17, and I've been in that receiving end of, oh, I didn't go to AA. And I'm just like, I did.
Right.
Yeah.
But see, you and I are like, we don't take that to heart. Like, we're just kind of like, okay, that's fine. But my business partner, Margie, we talk about, she's completely opposite than me. She 6 or 7 years ago got on stage. She's a speaker coach. She got on stage and she told her story and it was beautiful. And people said, this is great. And it was the first time she talked about being sober and all of that. But then 2 professionals in her industry came up to her and said, I don't think I would share that from the stage. I would be careful what you share. And so she went back into her hole and kept her sobriety quiet, when that's one of the things I'm most proud of. Right. And so we don't realize the things that we say sometimes and the damage that we can do to people.
Yeah. And Margie's episode's already out on Women In. And so if you have not listened to that and you're listening to Laura's, you'll want to pop and check that one out. Her story is she's been sober for 20 years now. And being sober for 20 years was much different in the beginning than it was for you and I. So how long have you been sober, Laura?
I stopped drinking in 2020. So 5.5 years.
Yeah. Awesome. Beginning of 2020.
And I actually day one started on TikTok. Not that I didn't have a TikTok channel, but I needed an outlet outside of my business because I didn't want to share it in my business space. And then the world shut down and all of that. So I used social media as my outlet. But social media is what helped me get sober. Like, I started following all these influencers before. I'm like, if they can do it, I can do it. It was part of my journey. My husband went through AA and he's 15 years sober. He went through AA and now he's a TNMI coach too. And he grew grew. He has his people at AA, but he kind of grew out of it and the new science and the new things we know. So there's just so many people in the ecosystem. And like we said, the way you got in it's different than the way we get out. We all have our stories.
I'm doing math in my head. Math tells me that you guys spent 10 years where you were still drinking and he wasn't. Your husband?
We actually just met in 2018. So, so 2 years were we, but when I was married before for 22 years.
Wow.
And when I hit my own rock bottom, meaning I was, sitting there going, I'm hungover again. I'm tired. I'm a functioning, like, I speak, I own a business. I have 2 kids. I had a beautiful suburban life, the whole thing. But here I am struggling with alcohol. And I wasn't super spiritual at the time, but I remember having a conversation going, God, if you can just get me out of this problem, like, well, then, 4 or 5 months later, I meet my husband who's sober and I'm like, like, I was just looking to get a little less drinking. I was just looking to get a little healthier. I wasn't looking to be sober. And he didn't at all ever push sobriety on me at all. but I saw the light of, I would go a week or two with him where I wasn't drinking. I remember my first Thanksgiving and I'm like, I don't think I've been sober for Thanksgiving. I should take that back. I don't think I haven't had an alcohol drink on Thanksgiving since like high school.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how to do Thanksgiving. And I remember feeling so good that whole weekend and like, this is crazy. So I started seeing what life was like without alcohol.
When did you guys get married?
2020. We got married July of 2020. I'm trying to put all the dates together. So we got married on my 6th month, just by default, by my 6th month sober date.
So we have even more in common than we knew, because my husband and I met in 2019. I was not sober at the time. I was Tony Party Time back then. And so we got married today, 5 years ago, June 27th of 2020.
Oh my gosh. Well, happy anniversary. Yeah. That's amazing. That's cool.
So you stopped drinking the same year I did too, but I didn't stop drinking until October of 2020. And so, but so he knew that there was that part of our relationship where I was still, and he, very same. Josh drinks, but he's a take it or leave it drinker. And he never tried to change me. And I sat him down when we were dating and said, listen, I've had issues with alcohol. Like, I don't like it. And which took, I mean, I still remember that conversation this day. I'm like, man, he's either going to like run for the hills. He's like, Tony, he's like, I believe in you, whatever you choose to do. And I'm like, okay, because I don't fucking know.
Actually, it's funny you talk about that conversation. The day that I decided to stop drinking, I came home from a conference and I was tired and hungover, because what had happened is I would start going back to these conferences for work and drinking more because I wasn't drinking with him, right? So I'd go and you know, I was supposed to speak and couldn't speak one day because I had drank too much the night before and they had asked me to move up a day. And I was like, I can't, I got to stay, because I regulated how much wine I had the night before I spoke. And that was when I was like, okay, this is just getting out of control. Like, my business is to speak and I have to like regulate alcohol, whatever. So I come home and I'm in bed the whole next day. He goes to work, he comes back, and I'm done. Like, I'm done. And I had written it all out on a piece of paper. And he walks in the door and I'm crying, and I hand him this piece of paper, which basically said, I have a problem with alcohol. I think I need help. I need to stop. But now we look back. I mean, I had just gotten home from a conference. I'm crying and I hand him a piece of paper. Like, he's probably thinking, you're breaking up with me. I had an affair, whatever. So he reads the paper and he looks at me. He said the best words ever. He goes, that's it? He's like, oh, we got this. And I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, so now I'm just like, oh, I'm so sorry I did that to you. Like,
it's so interesting because my story is somewhat similar, but I came back from a girls' trip, and that's when I had my moment. And I remember sitting at the island bawling to him and going, I just can't get my arms wrapped around this, and I want to have it all. Like, that was my governing belief. And Josh was like, Tony, look at all the stuff you've accomplished in your life. We got this. And I'm like, we do? Because I don't feel like I got anything.
Which proves the need to have people around. Communicate.
Yes.
Communicate, because I remember being in the back of my master closet in my suburban life crying because I felt like I was in such a dark space and I didn't tell anybody.
Yep.
And not having the right people around me, not having the right community around me.
100%. And I talk about this as a coach all the time, or public speaking, whatever I'm doing. And I actually said it yesterday, as a matter of fact, tell one trusted person, whatever it is. For you and I, it was alcohol, but it could be other things.
Right.
Tell one person, just verbalize it. Because all of a sudden it to us in our brain, like with your story in mind, it was this huge thing. And I mean, to us it is, but when we say it out loud and then people reflect back to us, like, oh yeah, you can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and this is what I love what you're speaking on, and I'm trying to speak more on too, is then as a society, what we need to do is allow people to give them their space, and their dark secret thing, their issue may not be the same as yours, right. But we all have skeletons in our closets. We all have things that keep us up at times in our life. And if you haven't had one, it's coming. Like, it's in your trajectory, right?
Yeah.
So to give each other space, because part of the thing I learned with you when we went to coaching is I used to think a coach had to have all the answers. Yeah. And what we've learned is a coach just needs to know what questions to ask, because just give somebody space and let them talk and they're going to find the answer that they need.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I want to talk about, your dental background, because this you're the first person I've had on my podcast in over 100 episodes that has been in the dental biz. So
Mhm.
take me back to what made you like decide to go into dental work. And I need to tell this real quick. I have never missed a dentist appointment my whole life. Every 6 months I go. So I hope you're proud of me.
There you go. I am very, very proud of you. I actually got into dentistry because my ex-husband's a dentist.
Okay.
So we met in undergrad. I said, "What do you want to be when you get older?" We're from Michigan, right? We went to Eastern Michigan University. And he said, "I want to be a dentist or mechanic." He's a car guy, Detroit, right? And so we ended up going to Maryland for my job, and he got into dental school. And it's funny looking back, my trajectory of alcohol started in undergrad, right? You learn how to party in school. Then when he went to dental school, he was very introverted, and going to events and stuff was really difficult. And so alcohol was the lubricant. And then you go through boards and you celebrate and you get through dental school. And so drinking became part of the thing. So it was really just started part of the journey. But I grew my business in dental because my background and my master's degree is organizational development and human resources. And what I felt was missing, again, looking for inclusivity, was training the team. We take new employees and we throw them at the wolves. Here's the phones, here's this, here's go. And I felt like I could fill that niche of helping new employees understand what the heck we're talking about. Because when you go in a dental office, it's like, and I was new at one point and I was like, what is the MODB prophylaxis, FMX, right?
Yeah.
And so really I wanted to help new employees feel included and understand what we're talking about from day one. So that's kind of the journey of how I got into dental.
So were you a dental hygienist too?
No,
You did
I was front office. Yeah,
office?
I didn't
Okay.
know
Business.
anything.
I call it the business, like in hockey, we're on the
Yep,
business side, similar to what I do.
yep,
I run the business and it's not like I'm on the
yep.
ice with the players. No. So,
Yeah, and no, and I grew up in the military, so I moved around my whole life and had military dental care. And so I have a true dental phobia, not as bad anymore, but one of the things that in our dental practice is that you can't do anything about the dentistry. Like they have to do drills and needles, they have to do those things, but we can do something about the experience. And so I'm really big on customer service in the dental office because we can make the environment better, and that's where we come in, the team comes into play. We can't change the dentistry necessarily, but we can. So many people are afraid to go to the dentist, and I think we can change that, so at least we can make it as good as possible.
oh, it is a real thing. And I think
Mm-hmm.
because in my case, because I've always gone to the dentist, I don't have that, but I did have to get a crown once, and that made me very anxious. And I had to get my wisdom teeth
Mm-hmm.
out, but they drugged me for that, so whatever. But
Right.
so your business, so do you travel around? How do
Mhm.
you travel all over the country and you're like a consultant for dental practices? Is this
I'm just a speaker now, so I never consulted. So one of the reasons I don't want to coach and coach one-on-one coaching, and one of the reasons I'm not a consultant is I get real impatient with people who don't make changes that I right. So a lot of times as a consultant, you go in and they pay you a lot of money and they want you to fix their business but at the end of the day, it's the owner that needs to change or somebody on the team. And so that's the same with coaching. Like I can motivate and I'm excited and I can help and I can guide. But if you want to do the same thing over and over again for months and months, that's really hard on me. Right. So I'm a speaker, I'm a trainer. So I sold my business 6 years ago, and I work for the company that owns it. And I go on the road and speak at dental conferences and train and teach.
okay? And then
Mhm.
so now expand that out. And now are you speaking in well, you talked about being sober. That's how you and Marty
Mhm.
met, right? Where or
Uh-huh.
like she was at one of your conferences, and do
Yep.
you blend the two? Is that how you do that now?
I do and don't. In the dental space, I happen to have somebody who asked me to be on a panel, mind body health panel. And it's really funny because I usually teach systems and customer service. So here I am, like, I'm not a touchy feely kind of person. Lady next to me is doing breath work. She's talking about yoga. I'm like, okay, right. But I talked about my sobriety. And one of my big things I think right now is, I know you'll resonate with this, is everyone's talking about wellness, right? We're talking about yoga, breath work. It was at this female entrepreneur conference that we were at, and everyone's talking about all these things. And then we're all going around the bar and we're drinking a bottle of wine at nighttime. And it's like, some things you don't talk about wellness if you're not going to include your relationship with drugs or alcohol. Not saying you have to stop, but just it's part of the discussion, because you can do yoga and breath work. And you can tell I'm not a woo-woo person, but you could do all the things. I'm getting better about it, meditate and all that. But if you sit down and drink a bottle of wine at nighttime and you don't have control over that, then that's where the discussion needs to come in. So this meeting planner asked me to speak about it, and that's where Sober Life Rocks kind of got launched. So when I have an opportunity to talk about being sober, I do it at the end of all of my conferences. I talk about Sober Life Rocks whenever I speak. I would love to branch out more in the sober space. I did get a chance to talk to, because I wrote a book on how to inclusive event planning. I got a chance to speak at a marketing conference to all marketing professionals. And it was a 30-minute, like, you're missing the mark on your attendees, because there's a percentage of attendees who don't even come to your conference because it's all about the alcohol. And so I'm going in that direction. I would love to speak more on it, kind of what you're talking about, like, inclusivity and all of that. But right now the money pays in dental. Sober's so new that it's kind of, And I don't know that they're going to be like keynote on sobriety. It's more like keynote on like the things you were talking about, right?
Yes, it's exactly it. Because, and I'm working on threading that needle right now too. And because not everyone wants to be sober, alcohol free, recovered, whatever.
And that's okay.
That's really okay. But to your point, they're not hiring keynotes for like, all right, let's get up here and talk about this, when like maybe 5% of their audience would be inspired by us.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But again, that's a growth work for you and I, and I'm sure you've seen that too. Like, sober is my issue. Like, drinking was my issue. But I've met so many people now, it's something else. It's depression, or they have a loss, or and we all have our thing, And
I talk about that. So it's interesting because I'm going to connect all this right now. So you're an author, you're keynote speaking, you have a conference. We're going to talk about Amplify Sober Voices here in a minute. That's coming up in January in Orlando. You're one of these, you and I share this, where people look at us and they're like, you're doing it all. How do you do it? And so, but before I get to that, here's something interesting. And this is what I spoke about yesterday. By drinking, if you calculate the hours, this is a rough estimate, and it'll probably be similar for both of us, but we got about 800 hours back a year from choosing to remove one thing from our life. Okay. So I'm going to be vague right now and just say, for you and I, it's the same one thing, but you could replace alcohol with maybe TV, or alcohol with social media, or we gave ourselves 800 hours back approximately a year. And so when you think about that, because now I'm going to ask you the question, how do you do it all? Because
so when you get that number, do you also include in that number the days after when we're feeling like crap?
Yeah, no.
Or the amount of energy beforehand of trying to decide where to eat and who's going to have right? Like
there's more. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's where I just got to the point where I'm like, this is exhausting, right? Just the energy around planning and all of the things, it's just exhausting. So anyway, I agree with you. It's the one thing that Margie and I have found, and what I love is, as Sober Life Rocks, for me, this is a passion project. Like, and everybody in this space, I mean, this podcast that you're doing, it's a passion project, and it's not necessarily just about alcohol. It's about women and growth, and and we're all kind of coming at this from different angles. And there are times, like, we have been on hundreds of hours of phone calls trying to talk to sponsors about to be at our conference. So it's work, but it's work, if it's not fun, don't do it. That's one of my mantras. And so I look at that two different ways. If it's not fun, don't do it, meaning find things in your life that are fun, find things in your life that you're passionate about. And this is something I'm passionate about. I woke up this day and I was like, you know what? This is what I had to go through all the things I went through for this purpose to be here now. But also, if it's not fun, don't do it. Meaning alcohol was fun in the beginning. And then I started waking up going, this ain't fun anymore. Now so if it's not fun, don't do it. Some things need to go, right? Some things. And so when I start finding myself real busy, real thin, real stretched out, it's like, okay, I feel that way because something in my ecosystem is not fun. What needs to change? What needs to be delegated? What do I need to get rid of? because if there's not, and not that everything in life is fun, sometimes you got to do the hard work, but if you can still feel that energy, and my word for me is enthusiasm. Like if I'm enthusiastic about it, let's go. I'll work 12-hour, 15-hour days, right? If it's 1 hour of something that I'm like, oh gosh, it feels like it's a whole day. So it's really just my balance of what pushes me.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
you and I were talking again before I hit record about you are very aware of yourself. And by that, I mean what gives you energy or what sucks your
Mhm.
energy. And what are some of those? Could you point us towards resources that you use? Because you and I were talking about keynoting, and I was exhausted by the end of it. And it's like, so that's
Uh-huh.
kind of the stuff we were talking about. So how do you, what resources have you used to get to know yourself better and where to place all that passion?
I actually just this year, it's probably been about a year, I started doing happiness coaching because, and I don't know this, my husband says this is something that's talked about in AA, but when the first year you're not drinking, you're like, I have all this energy, I have all these things, everything's great. And then it kind of, 4 years in, I started realizing like I'm happy with sobriety in my life and stuff, but I'm not happy like in my heart. Like, and I met this lady she's a coach and she's in my industry. She's a dentist who coaches on all the things like we learn at TNMI, um and I'd see her and she's always happy. She's always smiling. And so she has a happiness coaching program that I went through. And a lot of it for me was learning. I operate from the neck up. And she taught with all the different things, meditation, growth work, to operate from the neck down, like heart first. And so there are some things I've tried, like she made me try this, cold plunge. My husband loves cold plunge. You are not getting me in a cold water. Like that sounds right. So she's like, let's try this after you speak. And so I tried this yoga mat with these funky
Yeah.
things, these like nail things. That was the worst thing ever. And I was like, okay, that's not working for me. But there are some things like literally in between calls now, I lay on my tile floor and I just breathe for a couple of minutes because the cold of the floor and the straightening my back, we go from meeting to meeting to meeting. If throughout the day I start to feel something, I will meditate. Now, everyone's worried about meditation. Like, I don't know how to meditate well. I don't know. You know what? Just close your eyes and try not to think about anything for 30 seconds or a minute. And I think your brain deserves a rest, right? So I read a lot of self-help books. I used to not read when I drank. I used to tell people, I'm not a reader. I'm not a reader. All of a sudden I have time to read books now because I'm not sitting around drinking. So I'm learning, I mean, every day. But the cool thing is I'm learning more about me. And I think when I started drinking, high school, we were idiots in high school. Like I didn't know who I was in high school. I didn't know who I was in college. You don't figure that out. And then we just have this thing. So I'm learning every day and I'm excited because where I am now, I can't wait to see where it's going to be 10 years from now.
Oh yeah,
Right.
I know. That's how I feel. That's why I'm like,
Mhm.
bring it on. Bring it freaking
Uh-huh.
on. Okay. I want to know, you mentioned books, so what book would you recommend? Because I mean, I've asked you none of the questions on my list, which I never do,
Yeah.
because I find my
Mhm.
guests so interesting and I just want to know more about all the other stuff. But what book would you recommend?
So, well, if anybody's listening to this and I know you, but the first book I read was This Naked Mind,
Mhm.
which for me was just an eye opening. I recommend that to anyone just because even if you're not sober, but you're working with someone in your life or you're whatever, the no shame, the why we have such issues, we have all that. Second book I read was Atomic Habits.
Love.
And that was huge for me because it was like, okay, now how do I do life? How do I do this stuff? Um, I just read a really good book. It was Build the Life You Want, and it's co-written by Oprah Winfrey and Arthur
Yep.
Brooks or something
Yep.
like
Yep.
that. I think that book was amazing because it's an easy read. And literally, we have this journey where we're trying to get happy. Like everyone's happy. I want to be happy. Well, what's truly happy, right? And he talks about happiness. Like, how do you get happier every day, a little bit happier? And he talks about things like the words that we use and the connections that we have and people around us. And so that's a really good book. And I really like it because it's an easy read. I just gave it to my stepdaughter
Mhm.
who's 23, and I wish I had this book when I was 23. You know what I mean? To like figure these things out. So those would be kind of my top ones right now.
I have a 23-year-old stepdaughter too.
Do you?
Yes.
How many kids do you guys have total?
So blended family, three.
Uh-huh.
His daughter from his first marriage, and then my two children, 21. Landon's 21, Chloe's 18. She just graduated from high school from my first
Okay.
marriage. And so yeah, we've got three, and then we've got our
We've got five between us.
between how
Yeah.
many? Okay, so who's who?
We both have a 24-year-old. Well, 24-year-old. We both have a 23-year-old. And then he has a 17-year-old.
Oh,
So we're almost 18 years old. So our kids are the same. And we got together when they were like late teens. So I rushed to make sure everybody spent time together, got to know each other and all of that. And now they're off doing their lives and they're comfortable to come back together. And they all, get along super great, which is awesome.
it's not easy blending a family, and I've done it before because at my second marriage, he actually same. I had a stepdaughter the same exact age, and then before I
Um,
too. But blending a family can be really challenging. Josh and I, we nailed it with. I made a lot of mistakes as a stepmom. I think the first time around, so I was able to. Well, I know I made mistakes, so I was able to get a redo,
uh-huh.
which is nice because it can be hard.
Yeah.
It can be hard,
Yeah,
especially
for sure.
parenting.
I actually just saw an interesting reel or something where it's like, when we get divorced, we have the kids have to go back and forth between the homes and they have their life turns upside down. And a lot of people are in therapy because they were part of divorced families and all of that. This one, they were talking about the kids stayed in the house and the parents switched.
I've heard of that. It like just once. Yeah. And what? Any? Is there any early research?
I don't know, but it was for me, it was like, I mean, my husband and I were talking about, we're like, you better be really good with co-parenting or whatever. But like, you have a room, I have a room, somebody has an apartment, you go. But the kids, we upheaval our kids
Yeah.
during this, and they, I don't know, just a different concept.
It's interesting. I know. It's like
Mhm.
divorce sleeping. Have you heard about this topic
Mm-mm.
before? Okay, so divorce sleep, you're not getting divorced, you're just not sleeping in the same bed anymore. And it's your marriage is totally fine. It's just that you have sleeping habits that are different, like if someone snores really loud. And so you just have your own bedrooms and at night you just sleep in or someone maybe anyway,
Yeah.
so it's like divorce sleeping.
Isn't that kind of like what happens later in life when like all the older people, like she's got a room and he's got a room? We're like, you know what? I've done this for 70 years. Like you go in the other room.
It's well, and for people like you and I have a growth mindset, we're like, huh, that's interesting. No
Uh-huh.
judgment,
Yeah.
just like, okay, maybe it's
Yeah.
okay. We're down other rabbit holes. All right, now,
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Girl.
okay, I got two more questions. Well, actually, three. Okay, let's talk about Amplify Sober Voices because this is your first conference. When I saw you were putting it on, I was like, oh my God, I got to reach out to Laura and Margie and
Yeah.
offer, and because I put my own conference on for the first time this year. And so I was like, let me see if I can help and all this and speak because I'm like, hey, you want me
Yep.
to talk? Because I will. So,
Uh-huh. Yeah, no, we're so excited to have you and take your advice on all the things because it's our first conference. We was Margie when we started Sober Life Rocks. Margie started our podcast, so we have Sober Life Rocks podcast, and you've been on it, and it was a great episode. So if anybody hasn't listened, go there. I didn't know the story that you had because we didn't get to talk about it, so it was great to listen to that. And then I wrote our book
mhm.
my book about inclusive event planning. And during that, we've talked to so many people, right? I was talking about my book and she was talking about podcast. And what we've realized in this space is that it's a newer space and we're very disconnected. There are great coaching groups like we're TNMI. There's other ones, She Recovers. There's all the different groups. There's great speakers. There's great people who are influencing TikTokers, all the things. But we're not together. We're not, we talked to somebody over here and they're like, do you know these 4 people over here doing that? Do you know? And just an example, we've talked to 6 different people who want to help restaurants be better with the drinks that they offer.
Yeah.
And they have recipes and all, but there's 6 people scattered around the country. And I'm like, what if you guys all came together? Like, what if you knew each other? And we've been making connections, but we've decided to do a one-day event where everybody who's in this space, whether you work in alcohol-free, business or you're a coach or you're a speaker, can come together and collaborate and connect. And then we also know that a lot of us fell in this space and we weren't speakers before we got into it. We weren't podcasters. We weren't. And so we're just kind of figuring it out. And entrepreneurism can be kind of lonely.
Yeah.
And especially in a space where it's newer. So our goal of the event is to help people amplify their voices. So we're going to help people on how to podcast or how to grow your podcast, how to grow your speaking, how to grow your writing if you want to be a writer or write blogs or books. and then how to grow your influence or your community. So there's a lot of coaches who are wanting to learn how to do this, and there's a lot of speakers and stuff. So we have amazing speakers like you. We have everything's listed of our speakers, but they're all people who've done this and we think can help others. And everybody in the conference we're calling thought leaders, because just because we picked our 10, 12 speakers doesn't mean they're the only ones. There's a lot of us who have a lot to share. And we think that the collaboration and the masterminding will be an amazing part of the outcome of this.
Yeah. Well, number one, I was so excited to see that you were putting on a conference, you and Margie were, because I was like, and I have so much respect because it's a lot of work and you're sticking your neck out there financially to put something like this on, and how smart it was for you all to like partner with Podfest and put it, like, get it in. So I was just like, oh, so brilliant. But the other thing that I love that we share, it goes back to inclusivity. There are a lot of us, if it can feel like a lot of us in this space, and there's not, I come at this with an abundance mindset, as do you. Right. And Margie, like, rising tides lifts all ships, and let's all lift each other up in this. There's plenty of space for everyone in all of this. And that's what I love about the work that you two ladies are doing in this space. And so I thank you for that, and because not everyone is quite there yet. So
yeah. Well, and again, we all came into this space because of a personal choice that we've made. And we feel like we have a story or a message or we want to do something. But that doesn't mean we have the background that helps us move forward. And so we do think that, getting on the same page, kind of establishing, I mean, there are great, we were talking about this, Sober in the City is a great thing, and Sober Hive. And there are groups, we're not saying there's TNMI, which has a support system, but we're all in our ecosystems within sobriety and not crossing as much as we can do and learn from one another. I think we can walk away stronger in this message, because our ultimate goal is to just spread the message. Let people who are, there's a lady right now listening to this who goes in her closet like I did, who, is praying for some solution, and this message maybe will resonate with her. Right. And so we want to just be on the same page with that.
Yeah. And, one other thing about inclusivity I like to get on my soapbox a little bit about is I'd love to see more men in this space. I know your husband's a coach, and I would love to see, there are men, but there's not very many. And I would love to see that increase as well.
We actually, and Margie's the detail person. I'm the rah-rah from the stage person. So I'm not even going to try to say the names, but we specifically got male speakers for our event because Margie said the same thing. Like, it's very female dominated. I think women lead with their heart. We talk a lot. We'll tell anybody anything but we specifically got a couple amazing speakers who are men also to talk about how they've amplified their message. We have a great one who's doing it with high schoolers, getting into schools and stuff. And that's where we can really make a change. And, again, that's not my forte. Mine's business in conferences, and yours is in sports, and so amazing, right? Let's get to know each other and let's learn from each other.
Exactly. Okay. So if people want to get tickets for that, where do they go?
So easiest things, just say Sober Life Rocks. If you go to Sober Life Rocks, you can get my book that's there. You can free download that. You can get tickets to our conference. You can learn about our conference. If you happen to be a sponsor, we're looking for sponsors. There's a sponsor pack on there, but everything is on Sober Life Rocks. And I'll also mention, we now also have the largest LinkedIn community around sobriety too. That was kind of a goal of mine. So if you're anywhere interested in the sober space, whatever, if you look for Sober Life Rocks community, so don't just follow our page, but join the community. Okay. That's where we're having lots of discussions around, people are sharing things that they're doing and supporting each other in our professional world around the topic of sobriety.
Okay. I want to, before we wrap up, I want to know about the women in your life, and because it's really important. Like, who are the women, Laura, that have helped shape you to be the woman that sits before me today?
That's a great question. My world has pivoted since I got sober, right? If I look back at the people that I used to look up to, they're different people than I do now. right? And not saying it's the thing about it that sounds negative. It's not that. It's the people that got you here are not the people that are gonna get you there,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a journey, and that was a season of my life that was awesome. And I built a business and I raised children, and so I have those people from that time in my life. But now going forward, like I'm learning and growing so much. I mean, Annie, you and I have become pretty close with her, and just the amount of research that she does and the amount of giving and learning that she does. I follow her very closely. Margie is complete opposite for me. If you listen to our podcast, you'll see we're like yin and yang. But I learn from her every day, and she's learning from me every day. Just I don't think I have one or two. I have like a whole, like you, all of these women that we've been talking to in this space. So it's definitely people now though that are growth mindset, that are like, I was listening to, I don't know who it was, maybe Andrew Huberman or somebody recently. It was like, I want to have hard conversations with different people because I want to know I might not be right, and I want to know first if I'm not right. Like I don't want to find out later that I'm not right. So let's talk about it. And you might think this way and I think that way, and great, and we don't have to agree.
Exactly.
But we can learn and we can grow.
Yeah, diversity of thought I think is so overlooked, and I love diversity of thought because it's like, oh, I didn't stop to consider that. Let
Right.
me. I want to hear that. It doesn't mean I'll agree to your point, but I'm open to it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I would love for you to talk about that a little bit at Amplify, just because I do think that, this is a newer thing where we're not realizing some of the things we say, and we don't have to agree. We don't have to agree that, it's alcohol free or it's zero proof or it's sobriety or sober or whatever. We're all on the same mission. Right. And there's not so anyway, I don't like labels. I've always had a problem with labels. Those I think they box us in. It's really hard for labels. So anyway, I would love for you to speak.
I think you're hitting on something, because, and I also think labels are generational, and you and I are the same generation, because I think our kids' generation, they're more open to not having all these labels.
I would agree and disagree on that.
Okay.
Because I do think that there's these, like, the kids are like, you can't say this, you can't call them that. You have to make sure you include them. And so I do think that I would say that there's more labels than ever in a different way.
Yeah.
Not a boxed in way, but just, I don't know. This would be a good conversation to have. Another podcast. Great.
But you're right. This is good, because now as I start to think about some of these labels, I'm like, yeah, you're right. There are more.
Right? Yeah. And then I think our generation comes in and goes, oh, we can't make people feel bad. So now everybody has to change because we have to make sure everybody feels included for that label or this thing. And it's like, just let people be people,
Exactly. Yes, that's it. Just let them be.
Yeah.
That we agree on.
Yeah. Exactly. For sure.
Oh, we could keep talking, but this is fantastic. Laura, thank you. If people want to connect with you, where can they do that?
Yep. So find me on LinkedIn, find me on Sober Life Rocks. There's an email to connect with me there. I'm all around on the social stuff. So anywhere you go to Sober Life Rocks, you'll see me and Margie.
And talk about TikTok real quick. You're on TikTok actively.
Yeah. So I started my TikTok channel the day after, maybe not day one, but day two, something like that. And I did it for two reasons. One, to share my journey, because I was like, well, I learned from other people. And so now I'm going to share my journey. And secondly, because if I ever second guessed my decision, I could go back and see how hard day one was. Like, it doesn't matter. Day one is hard. Right. And so I never wanted to go back. And so I put it on social. So the TikTok channel is Sober Life Rocks now. And it was my journey up until about a year ago. And then now we're definitely talking more about Sober Life Rocks. And I've said everything I can say about how to do a concert and how to do a picnic and how to do, but now it's about amplifying the bigger message. But Sober Life Rocks on TikTok.
Cool. My daughter's like, Mom, you got to get out. She's like, you got a book coming out, Mom. You got to do this. And I'm like, I know, Chloe, I know. So I got to get out. You're inspiring me too. So thank you.
Well, it's one of those things though, but now I'm pulling myself off because I was finding myself on TikTok too much. And for the beginning, I would tell my husband, I'm like, I can't go to bed at nighttime until I learn something, because that's what TikTok was for me. Teach me something. I learned how to fold sheets. I learned how to get sober. I learned how to make a bow on a Christmas gift. Like there's just so much on TikTok, but I had to pull off because I was just like, so I post my stuff and follow the people I need to follow, but I'm not the way I was on it because it was a lot.
Too much. You're giving yourself maybe 800 hours back.
I know, right? I will be talking in a couple of years about your social media addiction, right?
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Anyways, well, thank you, Laura. If you all want to find me, I'm not hard to find either. The hockey side of my life is at kwings.com. Anything related to the podcast, my book coming out, or wherever I'm speaking, what I'm doing is at tonywill.com. Yes, I just rebranded TonyWill.
When is your book coming out?
It's coming. I'm timing it up with Empower Her 2026. So it looks like it'll be March 6th. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, March 6th.
Maybe we can get an early version at Amplify.
Oh yeah, we should be able to, for sure. Yeah, we'll want to talk about that. That would be cool.
Yeah,
I love it.
That would be very cool. Well, congratulations. It's a lot of work to write a book.
Oh my God.
Trust me.
I know. I'm exhausted. We're not even there yet.
Yeah.
We're getting more than halfway, but yeah.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Laura, and I will see everyone next time.